up a bit, we come to the sort of lower grade structural uses, shuttering for concrete, temporary propping, and palleting, it's a very large use of timber, low grade timber, rough saw. Structural requirements are sort of in the middle of the spectrum. Larger timbers, reasonably good quality because we have to underwrite a structural design. Above us are people who are more choosy about this, more picky, but they use small bits, like predominantly joiners. This is a chair, and the piece of the seat, as you can see, uses a single piece of L, which is selected particularly for its characteristics of this grain. Timber, if we take the four building materials, which is generally concrete, steel, masonry, and timber, all in front of the building. Timber is the only natural building material, the one that's renewable, and because it is natural, it's very complex in structure, and it has a charisma which is all its own. In fact, it improves with age. This is, if any of you have been to Denmark, there is a building museum just outside Copenhagen, in Lyngby, in which timber buildings, historic timber buildings from around Denmark, and indeed Scandinavian countries generally, have been brought and reassembled. And these are some planks of oak, about 400 years old, and the texture, and little bits of repair, as you can see. Sorry. These little bits of repair that you can see there all give it a character and a texture which is unique among the building materials. If we look at this range of applications, it's obvious that timber comes in long, thin strips, and so it lies alongside, roughly, steel in a sort of framing medium. And I'll start with the most obvious examples of framing. This is a domestic house in Northumberland, and you can see that we're using the stick build technique, conventional 100 by 50 verticals for carrying vertical load, and stability is gained by the use of board materials like plywood here, so that prevents cracking and abrasion. This is the central area of the golf clubhouse, and we need to create a large uninterrupted space. So the obvious thing to do is to put a truss across on the ridge line, and then the rafters can come directly to it, and that opens up the bar and dining areas. And if you make a truss in sort of warren or N shape entirely in timber, it starts to look a little heavy. So one way of lightening it up is to substitute the tension members in steel, which can then be very small rods. And that is relatively easy to achieve because the verticals in timber can simply receive the diagonals in steel by drilling a hole through them. You put a nut and a washer underneath. And you can pre-camber the truss, if you so wish, for no extra money, so to speak, by just tightening up the nuts. And there's the thing from inside. And you see, in order to help the rafters span from the ridge here to the eaves, which is somewhere around here, their span is broken by a series of flying struts and bamboo. And the whole thing is stained down. It's a little dark for my taste. But one advantage of staining timber in this way is that maintenance requirements are reduced. Once in 20 years, when you have to do something about the ceiling. Whereas in rooms like this, of course, the AA, I'm sure, regularly paint this once every year because it isn't absolutely sparkling white. Or perhaps. Yeah. Now, this is a very rare picture. This is an architect actually working. It's a guy called Nick Lacey who's building his own house slowly. We all know the problem. And it's framed in tropical hardwood this time. And all with look no hands joints. In other words, members meet in the X, Y, and Z directions at a node with no apparent or visible means of support. And I think that you can see the trick here, because there is the little post, and it has a central stud tenon. And then in this member is made a slot, and a threaded rod passes through the next member. You can then put a washer and a bolt down there and tighten it up through the slot in order to give some tension force through that member. And of course the same thing happens in the other direction. And so you get a node like that in which 3 or 6 members meet with not apparently showing the technique of joining. Now you can take that view, or you can take the view that I would prefer to design an honest structure in which the method of connection is expressed. So you can have there's the house coming on, as you can see. I don't have a picture of the completed house, but this is probably best because you get an idea of the sort of frame that it's creating. From smaller structures, such as domestic, to larger structures. This is Centre Parks, if any of you have been there, in Sherwood Forest. It's actually being a workshop, but it sounds awful. I'm going to go on holiday. I'm going to workshop. It doesn't sound like good, really. So they tend to call it a Sherwood Forest. And this is a 70-metre dome. Dome, very simply, as you can see. With half arches coming to a centre node. There's no secret in how it works. It's the arches are in depression, and then there are simple purlins as beams spanning from one to the other, and the whole thing is triangulated for stability and to support a lightweight member. And this is perhaps timber in space and selling things, then timber has this great advantage. It actually looks something. You would never rush up to a steel column and say, oh, marvellous column. But timber is a very tactile material, and it has this surface grain. And generally when we're designing in timber, we generally have to find a second reason for using timber. We have to find a way of selling it to a client, or suggesting that it's a better buy for a certain situation. All the buildings that I've shown so far have been the timber that's been used in the dry. Now, I think you're aware that once you get timber inside a building, the moisture content comes down to a level of about 9 to 10%. A little more if it's ground floor joists. Anything below 20% is immune to the wet and dry rocks. And so we can use softwood and sapwood with impunity inside a building. But once we come out into the weather, into the sun, and more particularly the rain, we have to be a little more choosy. I think, as you're aware, softwood, particularly sapwood, is perishable. And if we built this bridge in ordinary softwood, it would have a very limited life before it would start getting tatty at the edges. And so we have to make our timber for external use durable. We can do that two ways. We can either purchase a naturally durable timber, like in this instance, carry, or we can build our structure in softwood which has been preserved using a suitable external treatment. So those are the two approaches. This is a small bridge linking Wyland Cottage Hospital to the local station platform, which is there. And the original bridge being timber. And the client, it would have been very badly designed if it was in softwood. And the thing was rotting to pieces, and the client said, I'll have to have a bridge in concrete. This timber's terrible. And I explained that really it was because it had been badly designed that the bridge had rotted, not because it was in timber. And concrete was not a particularly friendly material to use in this very rural environment. So he cautiously accepted the recommendations, and we designed this bridge, in timber. This is Kerry, moderately durable timber. It's quite a cheap timber, because in fact the grain rises after planing. So if you touch it, it's rather prickly. But that doesn't matter for a footbridge. Well, it does matter for one place only, and that's a handrail. And so for the handrail only, we used utility, which is, again, tropical timber, durable, with an interlocked grain. So when you plane it, it stays very smooth. It's twice as expensive as the Kerry, because of course utility now has a use for joinery, whereas Kerry is hopeless for joinery. But the one point at which you would touch a handrail is okay to touch. And the whole theme of this bridge was durable materials with no finishes. And so timber has no finish. Tropical hardwoods are so impervious that you really are wasting your time finishing. All the bolts which you use to hold the thing together are stainless steel, and because timber is rather slippy in the wet, there are some anti-slip nosings here which are aluminium with a silicon graphite paint in them to make them rough. Now, I would have to go on and say that we designed this footbridge in 1982. That was before the general rise in concern about tropical hardwoods. Now, you may wish to debate this issue, but I'd rather not, because we could go on for the rest of the period talking about tropical hardwoods. And what I really want to say is I could short-circuit the discussion by saying you don't have to use tropical hardwoods if you don't want to. You can also use preserved softwoods for your external structures. And you don't need the durability of the tropical hardwoods for internal structures. And so the structural engineer, by and large, is let off the environmental arguments The message, number one message in working timber outside is lift the timber, don't have it in contact with the ground. And so the abutments are in concrete and a handmade brick, which are really quite impervious to moisture. We only leave triangulation underneath to stop the thing swaying sideways. The client, the client was very adamant that he was not going to maintain this valley. And so we put in rather large foundations. And say, do you need foundations large as that? And the answer is no, we don't really. The idea is that they keep the weeds away from the timber, which is most vulnerable to contact with moisture. This is the bridge. The slides you've seen just now were taken about 5 years after the bridge was built. And you can see that the timber had weathered to a sort of silvery grey, which is very attractive. This is the timber colour when it was very new. This photograph was taken as it was being completed. And never sell to a client the colour, the new colour of timber. Yachts only look this colour because the owners permanently scrape them down and revarnish them. And don't try, you're fighting nature. The ultraviolet light gradually breaks down the brown pigment and leaves the timber with a grey colour. Which, if you adjust your viewpoint, is even better because you can get more textures on the grey and on the grey. So, from rural Northumberland to industrial France, this is Lille, and this is the Grand Palais, a very large entertainment, exhibition, cinema complex just outside Lille. Huge in its size, as you can see. It's a small area. Now the object here is to create a large span roof which spans in two directions. And we have, as so often we say we do timber structures, that in fact we are making composite structures. But what you see lying on the floor there are primary beams. These are a composite of a glulam top boom with, as you can see, a steel tension strap and what we call bowstring truss. And they go in one direction, across there, and then the secondaries are really common members, in other words, common in the Latin sense, being a lot. If we have a look from above, we'll see that they're composites. The bottom boom is very flat and wide glulam. And then from that point on, there are bolted connections, timber diagonals for shear stiffness, steel diagonals for shear stiffness, and steel bottom boom, onto which, and across here, the steel deck profile panel can be attached. Now, the advantage of this sort of roof is that roofs like this in general tend to look very busy from below. All you can see is diagonals going this way and that in every direction. The typical space frame which can be seen at, say, London Bridge Station or the forecourt of King's Cross, that sort of thing. And what happens is that the glulams create darkness above and hide all the busyness. And so in fact we get a roof which is in fact very smooth and bland in its appearance. And it also has the texture of timber, and it's quite an honest roof. It's not an applied finish. That really is a working member. Now, the fire engineers tell me that the logic of this roof is that if you have a fire, the smoke curls up to the roof, goes into this void, and stays there. Now, I think you have to be another fire engineer to believe this. I don't know what tells the smoke to stay there, but they're convinced that it does. So this is the apparent logic on which this roof is based. Me, as a non-fire engineer, I'm sceptical about that, but I suppose one day the thing might be put to the test. No prizes, I don't think, for knowing where this is. I showed this, I gave a slideshow. I gave a slideshow recently to a Japanese delegation who were over here, and I had a woman interpreter, and so I would give a phrase and she would translate it into Japanese. And this slide came up and she jumped in ahead of me and said, "Ah, Buckingham Palace tickets." Apparently all tourists know this is where, we don't of course, we live here, but this is where you buy your tickets, or at least you do in the summer if you want to go and visit Buckingham Palace. It's Hopkins. It's a temporary building, or temporary in the sense that it is only put up for 3 months of the year, and thus you can be much more cavalier about what you do and what you have to do about durability. As you can see, it's a tent structure over a ticket box, cabin, which is actually clear western red cedar, and the posts are turned on a telegraph pole type lathe, and here you can just about see, if you have 20/20 vision, you can just see there a finger joint in this lamination. There's an interesting story about this piece of rope here, because it was found that the water came down the canopy, went round here, came to the bottom of this member, which was so shallow that the water went all the way along there and back into the cabin, somewhat the annoyance of the ticket sellers. And so this little bit of rope had to be put here to make sure that the water dripped off before it got back into the cabin. We're in Corsica now, and when driving off from the 12th, it's a good idea to avoid the weekend cottage at the Mayor of Nîmes. The Mayor of Nîmes has been very good to Norman Foster, and of course, incidentally, to O'Barrett Partners, in all the work that we've done in Nîmes in terms of modern building. Museum, well, I don't know, all of these developments on. And the mayor is getting on a little bit. He felt that he wanted a nice weekend cottage to get away from it. So he got this little site on the very southern tip of Corsica. I mean, it has a sort of cordon sanitaire, a golf course around it. As you can see, no riffraff on this side. The ante for a site is about $1 million franc, I think, something like that. Anyhow, he asked Norman to run him up a little weekend cottage. And the contractor who was appointed said, "Yeah, and it better be timber frame." Well, Norman Foster, the noted timber frame architect, doesn't quite ring true, does it? So, but the contractor was the contractor, and so it was done in timber. As you can see, like all of Foster's work, of course, it is extremely elegant, with a very strong, very strong conception. And this, as you can see, the house is not yet finished, but I was out visiting at the time the frame was put up. Whenever we do jobs like this, I like to try and build in a little problem that will get me out to the site, but not too much of a problem that I can't solve when I get there. Anyhow, I was fortunate enough to be able to get out there later on in the building and have a look at this building. And we had proposed this to be in oak. There's a lot of oak in France, and we thought it would remind them of France and it would be ecologically kosher. But when the contractor got the drawings, he said, oak, we don't do this oak, we ought to do our glue lamps in Iroko, which of course is a tropical hardwood, nearly the boat. Anyhow, we said, well, it's nothing to do with us, because it's a contractor's problem. So we did all these glue lamps in Iroko, which is a very durable hardwood. Iroko has very, very small movement problems as it dries out. So it's absolutely perfect glue lamp material. You would not, for instance, risk this sort of thing in oak, because they would all go bananas as they dry, and the result would really be, would create a furor. But in Iroko, you can chance your arm. And so there it is. I wouldn't mind it myself. I should imagine that Madame Bousquet is dying to get in there and hang up little curtains, on books with frills at the bottom. That gives you some idea of the sort of quality of work inside. Obviously, you'll appreciate that there is still a suspended ceiling going here. But this gives you some idea of the superb quality of all the glue lamp work. And that's the brise soleil from outside. And you enter the house from the back, and you go down. You either go to the small part or the large part. We're looking out over the Mediterranean with Sardinia in the distance. So it's not bad. And the idea is that the grass, the house is supposed to grow out of the ground. All these ideas that architects have. And the idea is that the grass actually goes up this concrete here to apparently meet the timber roof. So we're all wondering for the day when the first of Monsieur Bouquet's guests drives his car up the grass and onto the roof of the house, which will be interesting. The roof would actually be done in cedar shingles, and that's the sort of black 2.5 which you get on cedar shingles. They're laid in a very shallow pitch, which you can get away with in Corsica. You would not get away with that pitch in the UK. Now to another form. This is a computer realisation of, in effect, a very simple form of roof, which has its origins in the early 19th century. It's called a lamella roof. And the lamella roof is a diagonal grid, really made up of one member, as you can probably see. And the one member is 2 modules long. It has a tenon at each end and a mortise in the middle. And you simply make your roof by fitting together members like this. And you go on and build up a barrel. Like that. Now, this is a development of the lamella roof, because this is not, as they were created in the 30s, they were supposed to be simple arches, and they had tie rods across the regular centres. But we, of course, weren't the Oakers Arabs, never satisfied with a simple solution. So we took the basic idea and then put the stretched skin plywood on the top to, in fact, create a shell. So, in fact, these are shell roofs spanning from end to end. And to give you some idea, this is something in the order of 19 metres, something like that, by 9 metres from memory. Obviously, the building is not yet finishing. And this, I think, is a very good effect. The money, of course, it lies in setting up the geometry, because it's a very intolerant structure, as you can see, and in analysing. But I should point out that the angles remain 90 degrees. So in fact, these are not arches, they are parts. Each one is part of a helix. So there is a very sexy twist in each line. And in order to get that twist, list, you'll see that each piece is slightly twisted from the next one. And they each come into a valley. This is the end, the actual end. And just to show off, there is no lateral support to the end. It is acting as a true shell, it's not acting as a notch. And these things are bolted onto the glue mounts before they come to site. So in fact, the thing has to be very, very precise because everything must just fit when you get there. And the contractor, being German, built himself a 1 to 10 scale model, unasked, and which we were rather gobsmacked at. And he said, "Oh, yes, well, I was interested to see if it worked," and he stood on it and stood up. It was really very impressive. And this is actually how it's done. Here is the last bay being plated. And this is not plywood as you know it. It is what is called LVL, which is laminated veneered LVL, laminated veneered lump. And this can be made in single pieces, the full length. This was a contractor's proposal. Of course, our proposal had been 2 layers of plywood, thinner to get around the curve, and staggered to handle the joints. And the contract proposed this, and I said, "Well, how can you handle the joints?" And he said, "Well, we could get the LVL manufactured in single lengths. That's 19 metres long." But he was able to bring this stuff to site. And then they move up placing a single sheet at a time. So there's the sheet going on. You draw on the logic of the members below. Oh, there's incidentally, there was a little bit of cheating going on because, of course, in some areas we have to take tension forces, and clearly the mortise and tenon joint is only good for compression forces. So this is a little bit of a cheat. So here we have this is the same detail you saw in the architect's frame, with a secret bolt carrying tension through that joint. Marking out the logic of the ribs below in order that they simply come along with a nail gun. You have nails now 100mm centres to get constant between the ribs and the diaphragm. And this is that's that. This is the recent extension to Darwin College, Cambridge. And it came, it stemmed, Jeremy Dixon as the architect, and it is an incredibly narrow site. At this point, the road, Silver Street, is only 6 metres away on the other side. And so Jeremy Dixon had this incredibly narrow site developed as a study centre. And the study centre is a library with software facilities. And we created this building which doesn't look in the least narrow by jetting out over the water, as you can see on the far side. And now, so this side is the jetty over the water, and this side is Silver Street. And the concept here was sort of oneness. Because in fact, oak is the only timber that you can see. And the oak is used for the posts, which are about 250 square, through to beams, which are about 100 wide, through to rafters, which are 75mm wide, through to all the furniture, where of course the oak is a simple veneer. And so the whole thing is oak. So so far is new build. But we do work also on existing timber. And I'll conclude this with just a couple of projects in which timber was the existing material. Some of you may know this. This is actually the aircraft hangars at Duxford. They're built in 1917, and they're what are called Belfast trusses. That's basically bowstring form. They span 100 feet, and they're made with very small timbers, including the booms, which are also compounds. And the whole thing depends on an extremely large bag of nails. In other words, we've abandoned the medieval concept, which is that load is passed from member to member through end contact. And the PSA tested these trusses, or a few of them, about 5 or 6 years ago now, and they were still fine. So you say, well, what's the problem? The problem comes with these magnificent sliding folding doors, which are the originals, I should add. But the problem, as you can see here, is that timber tends to creep over time. And so the truss, which was right over these doors and supporting the head guide, was in fact slowly going downwards. Sorry, I'll come back to that. And you can see that how the museum was handling the fact that these trusses were going downwards by just cutting bits out the door. Now this is not a good way ahead, and the museum asked me if I could help. Was there anything that could be done to stabilise these? Because the problem is that, of course, there's air coming in over the door through these triangles. And if I just go back to that previous slide, the external air being inside a hangar is fine when planes are made of timber, as in fact they were in 1917. But there's not many of them around these days. And most planes are made of aluminium. And most people think of aluminium as a corrosion-free material. Of course it's not. It does oxidize, as we can see here. And in a working museum you have lots of planes which are in a sort of repaired state, with bare aluminium. So the museum actually want to try and close, they want to try and modify the conditions inside the museum to lower the relative humidity. And they can't do that with these sopping very gaps above the door. So the thing to do, how could the trusses be stabilised? And I thought of very clever things, or very Arab things, with bowstring trusses and things. And it dawned on me eventually that the doors do not open the full width of the trusses. And so the solution was as simple as putting in 2 acro-props, or large acro-props with screw heads, and shortening the span of the trusses and lifting them up again and stabilising them. And we did one door and it worked. And I thought, oh, this should be a nice learner because there are 12 doors in there. But unfortunately the client was an engineer and he said, well, that's great, I know how to do it now, thank you very much. So I earned a very modest fee on this, but nevertheless, it worked. So I have a nice warm feeling even if I didn't get much money. So finally to York Monastery. Some of you may remember that in 1984, the roof of the south transept burned completely. And this is a view about a couple of days after the fire. And you can see that the roof was removed it was of course, because of the height and the reach of the crane, it was a straight fight between steel and timber. And we drew a steel truss and a timber truss. And Dean said, this are mild steel. How long has this material been in existence? And we said, well, it's about 100 years. It's doing quite well as a material, actually. It's quite interesting things being done in steel. Well, 100 years is not what we want in cathedrals. We need a material which has been around considerably longer than that. So we said, well, oak's been around 1,000 years. How about that? And so it was eventually decided that the trusses would be in oak. The idea being that the Minster staff would feel happier on maintenance with a timber truss, and you can believe that if you like, but that was the story. Anyhow, and amazingly, the costs of a steel truss and a timber truss are, if you fire protect the steel, are very close indeed. And it was, after all, a fire insurance job, and the Minster were entitled to a replacement of what was there. And so, in fact, these are trusses built in green oak, and they actually have a fire survival time of 1 hour. And although they depend completely on metal connections, as you can see, because these are every member is bolted to one another, so it's a 20th-century truss, it is not a medieval truss. But these bolts are recessed, and they are now covered with plates, timber plates, sacrificial plates. So that in fact, the truss would stand for 1 hour and a half. And the vault was also reinstated using glue ladders in oak again. And as you can see, this is extremely complex because in fact the vault, the rib is turning as it's coming up to these bosses. The bosses are also glue ladders. I don't really have time to go into this project in detail, but it was a very major use of oak. And there you can see the two elements together. The roof, the thing which you see from outside, which keeps the rain off, protects the building, and the vault, the thing that you see from inside the building, which is the physical structure. The bosses were seen as all the details, the original bosses were known. But it was decided that bosses are a legitimate point for the expression of contemporary art. And this is one of the bosses, that's the green man, it's a sort of pagan symbol. I showed this at the talk once, and somebody said, yes, I've got a boss like that as well. And there's the final thing, 3 vaults for the price of 1. There is the new south transept vault with the rose window at the end of the south transept. There is the nave vault, and that is the high vault over the town. So on that point, that's the end of the talk. What has come out of that, or at least I hope what's come out of it for you, is timber is a charismatic material which can be very usefully employed in quite a lot of applications, generally in framing for low-rise structures, and I suppose one would have to say, best of all, for roofs. In England, we have the worst possible climate for designing in timber because we have to import all our timber, well, more or less all, and we have the most competitive steel industry in Europe. And timber is a difficult material to work with, as you know. It is very strong in its with-grain properties, but it's very weak across the grain. If you want to chop timber for firewood, you don't hack across a branch, you turn it up and split it down the grain. But if you can, and if you're just going for cheap cover, timber succeeds in relatively few applications. The most obvious one being truss rafters, because even the steel industry have not been able to make a dent of the insulation value. Its lack of maintenance if you don't paint it. And its corrosion resistance. You'll find a lot of the barns on motorways that store salt are made in glulam, simply not to make it look beautiful, but simply because the timber is impervious to salt in a way that a steel frame would not be. So that, overall, is a brief review of timber in construction. I hope it's been useful to you, to the majority of you, even to the majority of